their hands on?
Well, it won't be Trundle at this point, as that has been the first ban away from Splyce. So they don't want to allow Vitality to flex that Trundle on red side. And picks coming through, or bans coming through fairly quickly here.
Yeah, no real surprises. These are all power picks that have flex potential and strong. The jungle pool is taking a hit. Now, this is actually what we'd expected coming into the day.
Yeah.
A little bit more of a priority on this Kindred, this Nidalee, and Graves as well. So that means Elise and Rek'Sai jump up very high in priority.
Oh yeah, we may even see an Elise ban here. The reason I say ooh is Graves I've been anticipating people still playing, and we've saw it a couple of times in Challenger, but look at the LCK pick ban rates. Graves has fallen completely down, past Rek'Sai, past some of the other junglers that are in that second tier. So the fact that Splyce value Graves still fairly highly is now going to give MightyBear the option to go Elise or Rek'Sai, whichever one is available after Splyce are done here.
All right, so Splyce lock in the Lucian. Very good ADC, but hang on a second. Fizz banned away. Taking that away from either Sencux or Wunder. That's not something that I was expecting, despite how frustrating Fizz can be to play against. We'll touch on that in a moment or two as Vitality. They can have their pick of the litter when it comes to that jungle pick.
So we've started to see a little bit more Fizz. Some of it in the top lane, some of it in the mid lane as well. Has that carry potential. Of course, as always, so not for this game. Lucian, we spoke about how he's going to be high priority just in general. And I'm expecting that Rek'Sai to get locked in by MightyBear.
Plus what?
Plus, not Vladimir.
No.
At this point, looking at it, they could go Ekko, Rek'Sai. That's a big front line, plus a lot of crowd control.
Or they can go the safe routes. Maokai instead. So
hey, you could have substituted the word Ekko for Maokai and had big front line with crowd control. Same kind of champion.
Is still true.
So Rek'Sai, why, oh why do people think the Queen of the Xerxai is coming back? Well, I can tell you that. As long as you don't get too heavily pressured in the early game, you build tank, you get in there with the crowd control, get the knockups, and you don't suffer too much when a lot of the top tier junglers are banned. The Kindred is gone, the Nidalee is gone, don't need to worry about that. The rest of the matchups for Rek'Sai are fine.
And of course, opting into that Rek'Sai over the likes of Elise, which is what I was expecting to see a little more of today. But we are only in the third game of the day. Second series. Splyce have already locked that Ekko in, so Wunder is going to have a comfortable pick up top. Alternatively, it could go AP Ekko middle, but not expecting that.
From here, Vitality can look to go for Sivir plus whatever support they want and leave their mid laner until last. Trashy picking up the Gragas, opting for some disengage. This is teamfight focus from both teams already. Nobody is holding their cards particularly close to their chest, and in this scenario, you have to look at it and say, hey, Lissandra is available in this, as is Victor. That could very easily be the 1-2 punch. Azir is up, I believe, for the first time of the day as well here over on EU LCS 2.
But it burned Vitality the last time they opted to lock that in.
Something tells me Nukeduck's like, guys, I really don't think we should pick this Azir.
Well, we'll find out if he does decide into it. So, of course, that Gragas, I'm just going to say it, despite it probably going in the jungle. We've seen the Gragas top a couple times. Was pulled up towards the end of the spring split.
Yeah,
is
you're
when
right.
I am referencing it specifically.
And Ekko can go mid. We have seen that recently as well.
So, just saying, there is the opportunity there. For Vitality, they're going to try to figure it out. And they've got 3 seconds left before they have to lock in. And it is the oppressive bottom lane. Caitlyn Braum, there we go. Lights are no longer flashing.
So, pretty much at this, we'll have to see whether he plays Officer Caitlyn or Sheriff Caitlyn, whichever it is. You gotta RP it. If your name's police, man, you gotta get that. What I was gonna say though is seeing they already have enough engage as it is, they don't really want to opt for the Sivir into the Lucian matchup. It's not the best matchup into this new Lucian build either, just because of how squishy Sivir is. And sure, you can spell shield 1, but as soon as he hits you twice more and stacks up that black cleaver, you are pretty dead pretty quick.
That's definitely not something anybody wants to do.
No.
Especially when you're one of the new players on the squad. That is police, of course. So Splyce have got themselves 10 seconds before they confirm our suspicions of who goes where.
Oh, hello.
Vlad locked in.
Trevor, we talked about team fight. Again, another team fight pickup in this game. Vlad, his E does insane amounts of burst damage right now. You get that channel up with, you put the Hemo Plague down, they get the amplified damage, channel up Tides of Blood, and pop people. Now, will we see something like a Lissandra come out from Nukeduck, or will he opt for something that maybe can scale alongside the Vlad? We've seen the Swain come out.
There's a lot of options available here to Vitality. The Zillion Hover, by the way, something KaSing does every single time, despite the fact they actually have played a composition.
And it can be viable.
It could be. I just wondered to myself, the Azir could reset team fights, the Lissandra can lock somebody down long enough to kill them, alternatively, protect yourself from that Hemo Plague. Something that Nukeduck has played multiple times, instead going to go the aggressive route. Lock in the LeBlanc, so daring Splyce to fight.
So one of the things that Vladimir has as a weakness is his inability actually to lane against stronger lane opponents. Vlad needs to really hit those later levels where you get 8, 9, 10 before he can actually sustain up. And you're forced to trade your health in order to CS fairly effectively early on. So with Nukeduck taking the LeBlanc now with the Ignite, you're just saying, okay, well, I'm going to go aggressive. Every time you're low, I'm going to jump at you. You can't afford to utilize your health to trade for minions, and that's going to give me a laning advantage. What Splyce will have in their advantage, however, right now is a double teleport setup, plus scaling coming out from their AP threat the later this game goes.
A lot of AP, and then, of course, if Lucian goes that Shred build, slightly non-traditional AD, at least in terms of the big scene in the grand scheme of things. So Coach is stepping off stage there, Yamato Cannon and Sean's. I'm interested to see how Splyce handle this, because this double teleport composition with all the AP, with all the team fighting, it's going to put their running before they can walk theory to the test. How complex is it to pull off an Ekko Vlad team fights? You guys at home going to let me know. Jump on Twitter, hashtag SpyWin or hashtag VITWin, whoever you think is going to pick up the first game in the series.
Well, I mean, for the first game here for Mikyx, he's got to play the Bard. We know how difficult that can be, so we'll see if he can cope with it. For the side of Vitality, they've added Caitlyn and Rek'Sai as their newly added players, champions at this point, so we'll see how that goes as well. Rek'Sai building tanky with the Maokai building tanky is going to be problematic, perhaps, for Kobbe on the other side with this Lucian, but if you can get enough of a lead, we just saw H2K do this into a tank and be able to destroy it.
The only thing I do fear, and I use this term very, very loosely, on the Vitality side, is the amount of damage Maokai will put out versus the amount of damage that the Ekko can put out. I think the bases are quite different. So if Vitality ever falls slightly behind, there can be a part where Ekko can avoid LeBlanc burst, the pools of blood from Sencux, he can avoid the burst from LeBlanc as well. So there are options here for Vitality.
That is fair. When you look at the isolated matchup, though, it's kind of evened out to be a fairly neutralized lane between Ekko and Maokai. It used to be that Ekko would dominate, and then kind of Maokai's realized, okay, they just have to build a little bit of magic resist in that kit, and they're okay from that. So generally, it kind of is an even lane. You know, we talked about would Cabochard bring out more tanks. It's not really the answer we were looking for in game one, but I like the composition that Vitality are looking to run.
Yes, and let's see how Kobbe handles this Maokai. Obviously, as you guys can see, there is a pause in game. We are just restarting one of the clients as we get the guys back into it. And then we will jump up onto this one. Gives you some time to vote on Twitter. And also let us know if you think Vitality or Splyce are one of those teams that have won or lost the offseason. Of course, Mikey, the support change for Splyce. Game one of the series here on EU LCS 2 between Vitality and Splyce. I'm embarrassed to admit I'm looking at the Officer Caitlyn skin.
Yes!
That police is running.
So happy.
I had fun with Freeze, so I'm not going to do it with this one. I'm not going to do it.
I am, but I'm just going to try not to tread.
It's a long season, and I'll save some of the police puns for later in the split.
Just don't save them too far for playoffs, because last time that wouldn't have paid off too well on this side. But I think Vitality this time will take that. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a little close to the line. Spit in the face of the law apparently at that side. But for Vitality, they've rebuilt. They're looking to play, seemingly a little bit more of an aggressive game, I would imagine, with this kind of setup where they want Nukeduck to carry fairly hard. Cabochard's looking for those engages. They got the Rek'Sai there as well, looking to get in the mix of things. So they're relying on police for the late game. Will they need that from him? Will they need to get there, is the question.
Yes, that is the question. And the current lane assignments somewhat imply the lane swap will be happening. So let's see how practiced both of these teams are at your traditional summer split lane swap. But what I do like from the Vitality team composition is it's relatively simplified. Cabochard and MightyBear just stay on the front line, protect and peel for police, buy as much time as you can, and let Nukeduck find opportunities. Let Nukeduck look for poke and look for engages. So, you know, it simplifies the communication and the objective. Trashy and Wunder, they're going to be trading back and forth. Yes, has been picked up here by Trashy. He's put some damage down, but it's going to be enough to zone and force Trashy away.
But police also took the small one from that bot lane trade, so it does make it a little bit trickier as KaSing got himself into the mix as well. So Vitality with the disruption on the Krug start. Now Wunder takes a bunch of damage, but Wunder did manage to cut the wave. So this is actually pushed in at a really odd and awkward time for Vitality, because it means the second wave is actually just only the 6 minions. It's not the big wave that Splyce are looking to stack up into the top side that gives them that extra time to damage the tower. So now, TP coming out again. This is something we've seen commonly now. 3 games out of 3, top laners TP'd up there. Mid lane.
Tides of blood from Sencux, but he comes off worse for wear in that trade. Signal of Malice across the distortion. Nukeduck gets the advantage, and let's see just how much of a CS advantage Nukeduck can build, if any. And yeah, as you mentioned, Wunder keeping away from the lane setup, as it were. Gets himself some XP and will be able to pick up those last hits we expect on the top after tower.
Yeah, MightyBear is going to do his jungle steal impression. As always, on the strong side, look to take out the red buff from there, and you probably see it swapped out by Splyce at the same time. Although, looking at how fast Splyce have pushed this, I actually don't think that jungle is going to be safe for Trashy to go out and get red buff on his own here. So either somebody's going to have to stick around and help him, or he's going to be down a buff.
Tower actually falls with Splyce in the advantageous position, and Kobbe and Mikyx already making their way down bottom, so they'll be able to catch this wave just a little earlier. Technically means
this is way
Splyce are ahead of tempo.
Way earlier for Splyce. Look at it, Lucian is in his lane, nearly at the minion wave, before Vitality even started their recalls. So the knock-on effect of this is going to be up in the top side now. Ekko has been able to take a little bit more CS, a little more experience here. And now will we see the return to standard lanes? No, Caitlyn's going top side, so they're looking to continue the 2v1.
And all of this is at the cost of some CS and some time on Trashy. Because Police and KaSing, they try to invade, try to challenge, and cause some problems. Tides of blood into Sanguine Pool means Sencux blocks some of that damage.
The problem is, Nukeduck didn't take the damage, because so Tides of Blood is kind of annoying. If there's a minion between you and Vlad, you actually don't take the damage from the channel, and then Sencux Pool, so burns through more of his health in that trade and actually ends up losing out. Nukeduck would have got the distortion to get damage down himself anyway, so he had to avoid it. Sencux knew it was kind of a bad trade as it was.
It ends up meaning that Nukeduck is still in the lead, still holding on to those 2 potions, whereas Sencux already burned through the consumables. Kobbe and Mikyx, they're already on that tower. It's just early game, slowly leaning towards Splyce, just in terms of the tempo, just in terms of who can make the first move. Yep. But now you have to make the positive one. Now you have to continue to maintain that front foot advantage.
And Vlad going with Doran's shield right here against a ranged auto attacker in the mid lane as well. You want to just block some of those autos. That's why he doesn't have the massive amount of potions you would expect from like a boot start. So with that mid lane matchup somewhat going in Nukeduck's favor when it comes to the effective health, these trades are going very well in Splyce's favor when you look at the turrets alone. Now pushing out the bottom side, you're talking about the difference in health now of the turrets. They're pushing down pretty quickly here. Sencux mid lane.
Oh, a lot of damage from Nukeduck. Sencux holds onto the Sanguine Pool. Transfuses as he walks away. Tower goes in favor of Wunder. Kobbe and Mikyx walk away. And this is actually a pretty good setup here for Mikyx. He's got an experience advantage plus a level. Mountain Dragon started off here by Splyce as Sencux TP's mid. And Wunder's been given a lot of free time thanks to how this lane swap's played out.
Look at how slow this dragon goes though. Mountain Drake, very frustrating, but the tempo advantage that Splyce have allows them to do this. You can see they're going to have to juggle. This takes so long to do because of the added resistances. It's still such a good thing for Splyce though, because you would not expect them to come out and have their lane swap nailed this early on. Again, Cabochard was so close that he didn't want to TP down to the bottom lane, so they take advantage of Wunder going up top, pushing through the wave faster. And this now gets us to a point where Vitality is still with this composition that kind of wants to team fight, but they're not getting there anytime soon. It's still so early on that Splyce can just sit on at least some of their advantage they just got from that dragon. They are just about behind on gold, but it's still a good advantage in tempo.
Yeah, if I read that correctly, Splyce also just stole the Gromp away from Trashy, so Trashy's really hurting. Down about 500 gold, down 13 CS, down a level as well. And a lot of that just stems from how that laning phase has played out, how that early game has, you know, caused him some headaches, caused him some troubles. But in the big picture, it's Vitality that still has the gold lead. Because, of course, those CS numbers, plus 15 on MightyBear, plus 15 on Police. It adds up.
Well, that's the area that we may end up seeing Vitality come back into it, is MightyBear closer to that level 6, can get that Void Rush, get around the map faster. Has the Chilling Smite as well, which is something that we started to see on Rek'Sai. Use it on a target allows you an easier time to get that unburrow, but certainly not something we're expecting to see on every single champion.
Nukeduck's really comfortable in this matchup.
Yeah.
Dodged so many of those Tides of Blood, using the minion wave incredibly effectively. Little left out on those chains, didn't have the biggest of bursts.
But that's the thing for Sencux right now, is he knows he's in a position where he has to concede the laning phase, so he just goes MR items, going for that Spirit Visage, which you build on Vlad anyway. You want that extra healing now as well, as you always did. So he's very comfortable to just go Magic Resist, avoid any all-in trades, never get to a situation where Nukeduck is able to utilize his Ignite, and then realistically has a fairly safe laning phase now that he's got a couple of levels under him.
In the previous game, we talked a lot about the Swain and what we're expecting from the item build. I know we've seen Vladimir and CSQ, and I'm going to say mixed results.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to temper it. What are you expecting to see on Sencux? Because you've touched the MR in 6.10 with the changes.
Yeah, so when it comes to build, we see a lot of second or third item Spirit Visage. You see the Rallies come out as well. Anything that can provide him either health or AP benefits him, because the way his passive kind of amplified a lot of the
alternative stats.
The alternative stats. So more health gives you more AP gives you more health, that kind of thing. It bounces between each other, but don't stack. So it's not a loop.
It's not infinite.
You don't just get Warmugs and suddenly you're the strongest person in Warmug's death cap. No, you may still see a Warmugs. We have seen that on a couple, just because it allows him to stay alive a little bit longer, get more AP, therefore amplify a lot of the damage on the rest of his kit. That E is particularly potent.
Let's see what Sencux decides to prioritize, because we've hit 10 minutes. Jungle interaction is incredibly limited thus far. Trashy's just fighting for scraps, and MightyBear is really running wherever he pleases. Got a pretty good network of tunnels in the bottom quadrants of the map. Kobbe's just going to shove the wave in. So this is a very even game. The only thing that is different is the additional dragon in favor of Splyce.
Yeah. But that will kind of compound itself. Maybe give Splyce an opportunity to look for further objectives. Of course, that will give them that true damage down onto turrets, onto epic monsters as well. I love saying epic monsters.
You do you, dude.
It's okay. I'm just saying,
it's
a great word, a great term. I love it. But, normally I just say Battle Dragon.
Yeah, that's what I go with. But more traditional. It's laid back that way.
This game's very laid back, I'll put it that way.
It is.
No kills yet, 10 minutes in.
I want to see what Nukeduck does about that. He's got himself the Abyssal Scepter, which I think is a very, very good purchase into the Ekko, Gragas, Vlad. Even Bard, to be fair. A lot of ancillary magic damage. That's going to come in.
All right, you do you.
Yep.
Whatever you want to say.
Try. You say epic, I say ancillary, you know what I mean? It's just, we're different like that. But as you mentioned, the build-up, the farming stage, the fact that Police has gone pickaxe, recurve bow, that's not ideal.
Yeah.
Still waiting for that ultra proc. Really, teams are just looking for the power spikes and looking to get the itemization that allows them to engage.
And that's the thing, with two team comps that really want to fight each other as a 5-man stack, it's going to take a while. We're waiting for that 2-item mark, but Nukeduck wants to go in.
Nukeduck is going to do something. He's going to distort away, then flash, magical journey, flash forward from Wonderwear. First blood goes to Splyce with the explosive cast.
Oh, Nukeduck thought he could apparently go aggressive 1 versus 2 against an exhaust there. Really weird decision-making coming out from the mid laner, and that's going to cost Vitality the first blood. Luckily, nothing more as the rest of the team are there to group.
Double-edged sword. All of that good work keeping Trashy down has been reversed with the first blood in his hands. Alternatively, it also means it did not go to Sencux. It did not go to Kobbe, the two guys who you really want to get that money.
And the Scaler, the Vladimir, down on the bottom lane, just got a whole chunk of farm as well. So he's working his way up towards his first item being completed. And as we say that, he is recalling Spirit Visage gets completed. Mid lane, Nukeduck could back out here. He could easily back away from this situation. Uses everything to go aggressive, and it gets punished. They were already coming down through the topside jungle. Nukeduck had to smell something was up. There was 2 people in that lane, man.
And I wonder why Trashy decided to throw that cast. Nukeduck was down to around 200 HP. It looked like Wonderwear had his number. Trashy kill secures.
He's like, I'm behind. Give me the kill.
KS. Hey, the theme of the day continues as it's another aquatic Drake. Gonna be secured this time by Vitality, or maybe, actually, Vitality, they've been pushed away.
Yeah.
The support coming down from Splyce, and Nukeduck, he's defending the entrance.
But you can see Splyce also realize they have the cut-in for mid lane here. Is if they can deny Nukeduck and MightyBear heading over to mid, they can easily push down that turret, take the turret for Dragon Trade, and that's a fine one for Splyce any day of the week. It's only Ocean Drake. We spoke about this. When you think of them in a priority way, it's Inferno, Mountain, then Ocean and Cloud, and there is a fair gap between Ocean and Cloud. Between Mountain and Ocean when you look at like 2 and 3 on the priority list.
Yeah, 3 and 4, slightly less so.
Yeah.
But in terms of itemization, Kobbe just picked up his Ghost Blade, so I like what Splyce did. They threatened the Dragon enough for Vitality to back away, and Splyce applied pressure in the mid lane, moving towards the tower. It's bought enough time for Kobbe to rejoin the team, bring that Ghost Blade in, and in comparison to Police, has got a lot more power to play with.
And you can see how the effect of the Trashy was in.
Trashy, that was beautiful! Nukeduck had used the distortion, and Trashy just body slam flashes in.
Splyce are punishing Nukeduck for this LeBlanc pick and being over-aggressive on it right now. That's going to be a turret. KaSing sticking around won't be picked off, but Splyce, every time Nukeduck goes aggressive, are able to answer very effectively in that middle lane.
Zero hesitation from Trashy. Manages to jump in, commits the flash, and second kill into Nukeduck allows Splyce to give a 2,000 gold lead to the team, give a kill to Kobbe, and most likely a Dragon.
Realistically, this is what we see when a player is desperately trying to kind of solo carry. Top lane, there is an engage on Wonderwear.
Oh, Cabochard's looking superb. Teleport comes down from Sencux. MightyBear and Cabochard, they're running away. Cabo, oh, looked like he was in trouble right now. Managed to get out alive.
Clawing away at those puns. I can't believe you, Trevor. I'm going to leave it. It's fine. At this point, I'm kind of frustrated by what Nukeduck is doing in this game. And the reason he's kind of overextending, looking for these plays, is because he needs to buy time for Police. Police is behind on his item build. As you spoke about earlier, going pickaxe into the Hurricane is pretty damning for Caitlyn, because now you've got this point where Caitlyn has to wait for 1,300 gold for the BF sword. Normally you want to go BF into the Hurricane. That is the best route that you can go. Vitality are being sneaky though.
Tremor Sense is going to help out. Magical Journey allows Mikey to get away. At 15 minutes, it's 1,500 gold advantage to Splyce. Wonderwear is really far ahead of Cabo, plus 30 CS, plus a level as well. Sencux is out-farming Nukeduck, and despite the deficit for Kobbe on Police, he's actually ahead in gold as well.
And that's the benefit that these lane assignments and the matchups have right now, is the natural progression towards magic resist for both top and mid for Splyce neutralizes again Nukeduck's effect on this game, because Police isn't going to be really in fights until he gets to that 2-3 item point. So having the magic resist as Mikyx fires off the Tempered Fate, got the flash from Police from it. Having that magic resist now really reduces what Nukeduck can do.
And of course, this is a matchup that Vitality and Nukeduck opted into.
Yeah.
There was a last rotation LeBlanc into the Vladimir Ekko. And the Gragas, you know, is going to be very tanky regardless. MightyBear is going to be forced to manage to get that Fury Spike down onto the red buff. And I mentioned this right at the beginning of the game, and I think it's becoming even more apparent. If Nukeduck's damage is unable to kill targets, or if he's unable to find a squishy, all of the pressure is then on Police.
Yeah.
And in order for Police to do it, he needs his front line to survive. But MightyBear's falling behind in kills, and Cabo's falling behind in farm.
And the fact of the matter is, Sencux on this Vlad is going to be doing very well against even the front line of Vitality. He can bypass most of it just by either pulling under after the Hemo play, get some of the damage and avoid the crowd control, or, you know, just kind of walk through. And he's a Vladimir. What are you going to do to try and stop him? He's going to take a while to kill. One of the drawbacks normally for a Vlad is that he has no self-crowd control. He has nothing to actually allow him to apply damage if his targets can just run away. You pair that with an Ekko and a Bard, people that can lock people in place for you then to put down the Hemo play, get that Tides of Blood. That's where a Vladimir can be effective, and that's exactly the setup that Splyce have right here.
It's relatively simple to follow as well. Relatively. It relies on Mikyx and Wunder finding some of that CC, you know, actually, which is challenging. But for the time being, Splyce, very, very comfortable, holding on to their lead, pressing their advantage further. I think a big upgrade here in damage, BF Sword, as well as those Berserker's Greaves for Police. And now it's going to be up to him to find a way to get it down with those Hurricane procs.
Yeah, well, you can say for certain that time for that is not right now, but Vitality are going to push out in that middle lane. Police, you can see getting those headshot procs more often from that Hurricane. It's always nice to get a headshot in the middle of a fight. When you hear a trap go and you're like, headshot time, and you overstep and die because you step too far forward.
Chasing the dream, as it were. Looking at the minimap, Police could be in trouble.
Oh, that's a lot of trouble.
Sencux with no flash, body slam connects. The barrel as well, and it's Mikyx that secures that one. Taking a look at the wards, by the way. Splyce have got some pretty deep wards towards the back camps of Vitality Jungle. Splyce invested a flash body slam. What else do they get? Currently, the answer is nothing.
But the thing is, they're also still getting control on their side lanes. Look at they have maintained a CS advantage, and here is why 90 caliber net is not reliable escape abilities when you look at it. It's so slow. If you don't have flash available, it's like, oh, I'm already dead. 90 caliber net is not going to be able to keep me alive. Just in general, that's one of the things that a lot of Caitlyn's kind of get baited into, is like, I've got my escape. I'm like Ezreal. No,
not really.
It doesn't work that way. You're a lot slower than an Ezreal in that scenario.
I also quite like seeing Trashy not try to thread in that additional auto attack.
Yeah,
it's something that we were so critical of. I know, Deficio yelled about it so much in Spring Split that that's all I look for now, is get the body slam into the barrel. Don't try to put that extra one in, because people can get away.
So, Vitality, the first team here on EL. They're not going to do it in time. It's going to die. Oh, this is so sad. MightyBear's lost all of his health, and Baron's going to...
So close. So close. Started that one late. And that is a very good analogy of this game. Just a little bit wrong, a little bit executed. You know, this whole situation with Kobbe being in a better position, with Wunder being in a better position, somewhat started by Police and KaSing invading and delaying Trashy.
Yeah.
You know, it allowed Vitality to get the tempo on the towers, and it allowed them to get into a position where they could find kills.
But the thing is, Splyce utilized their TP to get Wunder up to the top lane faster than Cabo could, and of course Ekko's going to assist in that tower push better than a Maokai would in that scenario. You can clear the wave faster, has better damage on the turret as well. So, we are in a situation where Splyce have a good lead when you think about some of the buffs they've picked up, some of the added towers they've got. The gold is in their advantage too.
20% additional damage to epic monsters. He is in trouble. Tempered Fate locks up 2, but KaSing's managed to fight the front line. Cabo doing what he can with the Maelstrom, is forced to flash defensively, stays alive. Chrono Break from Ekko's thrown down, but it's in actual fact Cabo that's the first to fall. Mikey will get dropped down as the first kill for Vitality, and Splyce are split up. Wonderware's looking for more. Timewinder gets blocked by the Unbreakable, and KaSing saves his teammate's life. But it's a 1 for 2 in favor of Splyce.
Yeah, Splyce still come out ahead from that. A couple of traps have gone down, but it is not enough from Police to deter this push from Splyce. They're going to be able to get a turret from that fight as well. And again, we are starting to see a team that you would imagine to not be favored in these best-of-2 matchups taking a good lead in Game 1. This is a mirror of exactly what happened in our first series. And the key thing to keep your eyes on here is look for Sencux, because this is what we're talking about. Even though he uses Hemoplague down here to amplify the damage on just the Maokai, look at where he runs. As Maokai comes up, Sencux goes right into the backline, flashes onto Police, forces him to draw all of the damage down, and that distracts the Braum, the Caitlyn, and allows the rest of Splyce to come through the bottom side of the fight. And even though it was messy, still take an advantage for themselves.
And I really like Kobbe's positioning. Jumps into the river to avoid damage, dashes over the wall once the cooldown comes back up, keeping himself at arm's reach of danger. Splyce now have to prove the true test. They've taken advantage of Vitality's decision-making, punished Nukeduck's bravado, but now they need to push this advantage further. This is where H2K faltered earlier today.
It is where they faltered, and honestly, when you look at Splyce as a team, perhaps where they faltered previously is, you know, Kobbe went through games pretty much overlooked. As a player, there were very few standout games where we were like, well, Kobbe is holding his own against some of the best AD carries we've got here. Forgiven, in an interview we did with him on the analyst desk right at the end of the last split, actually said, though, that he felt Kobbe was one of the players he actually held in some sense of high regard for how he played. So I'm interested now to see how Kobbe can do this split.
And how he can grow, yeah.
If he's grown in the off-season and is coming back as a player that we maybe can look for Splyce to rely on, maybe that's the setup that they need here.
And you can't disregard the fact that he's got a new support.
Yeah.
We have seen AD carries and supports respectively become different beasts with a different duo.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you can just have your strengths amplified by a different player. And Mikey, for the time being, is doing pretty well.
And that's an interesting story in this matchup, specifically when you look at the other side of the map. Hjarnan and KaSing went hand in hand for over a year on H2K and then Vitality, and they were a very formidable bot lane, regarded by many as, you know, top 3, top 4 in Europe. And now we're going to have to see how Police and KaSing can kind of get that synergy up, the same kind of reliability where KaSing was able to just go elsewhere on the map, make plays, and everything would still be fine for Vitality.
He was allowed the freedom to do so.
Exactly. He wasn't locked in bot lane jail with, with his AD carry.
No, he was not. Although the Police luckily do have access to the keys if they want to unlock him this time around. Obviously, as you guys can see, there is a brief pause. As soon as I find out what it is, I'll let you know. And it is ironically KaSing who might be asking for those keys.
Yeah, I was going to say handcuffs are too tight at this point. Well.
But it's a good spot because we've got a bit lost in our diatribes and our stories at the moment. We're 24 minutes into the game, and I was lied to. It's Cabochard that has the problem. I'll forgive you this time, production. But to get back on topic, 24 minutes in,
yeah,
Splyce have got 3 consecutive dragons, unchallenged. They're 4 towers to 2. They've got a 3,000 gold lead. Everything just looks very good for Splyce. I feel they've played the game very well. They've made limited mistakes, and even of the few that are there, they've not been as game impacting as, say, Nukeduck's mistakes or the lane swap, play outs.
I mean, I look at this game and on paper I was thinking, well, Splyce, they're probably a team that they're fighting to avoid the bottom of the table, look for that safe spot, maybe make it into playoffs. But right now they're looking actually pretty good, just in general. And I know we've said that about teams coming into the split and then they've disappointed. We spoke about Roccat last split as well. I feel like, again, it's Splyce making a lot of good calls as opposed to just Vitality dropping the ball in certain scenarios. So I like what Splyce are offering. Trashy, after his rough start, has actually picked it back up. He's been in the right place at the right time and has been a bit of an instigator for this Splyce lineup.
Great combos. Yeah. I mean, the 2 flash body slams we've watched have resulted in kills and an advantage for Splyce. I'm very excited to see how not only this game plays out, but then how Vitality bounce back. Because H2K versus Rocket in game 1, there was a very clear refocus from H2K. And Jankos came out and became this absolute monster that he was not in game 1. The best of 2s that we now have in summer, this is an interesting setup where we have the potential for that as well.
I'm just chuckling because we got the clicking of Rek'Sai in the background. I'm like, 10 meters, 8 meters. But we have gone from 5 to 1 to 0 on the counter now, and we are back into game.
Because we've been joined in the trophy case.
They're not right on top of us.
Not just yet. All right, MightyBear gets spotted out by Wunder. Oh. Going to play with that one a little bit later in the split. The rest of Splyce now reposition. Just before the pause happened, Vitality were clearing out wards in and around the Baron pit, and it looked like Splyce were trying to set up to work for that one, but didn't work out this time round.
So there's an interesting kind of difference in this Splyce perhaps and last split Splyce, and I wonder whether it's to do with the actual meta shift. But in this game, Splyce got 3 dragons. In the whole of last split, they only got 19. Wow. So maybe it's the emphasis on dragon priority and objective priority as we have a Baron that is turning this Splyce team around.
Who's going to get it? The answer is Splyce. Teleports have come down as Vitality are in the retreat. MightyBear is left by the Lonesome, and he's taken down by Kobbe. 3-0-3 for Kobbe's Lucian. The rest of Splyce group up, set their sights on the top inner turret. And Cabo was nowhere to be seen. Unable to get involved. Teleport available. Splyce take themselves the tower as well.
And the interesting thing for that Baron setup is MightyBear was near the Baron, but then ended up recalling. Wasn't on vision is the key thing. And very curious timing out from Splyce to just go, hey, let's just go for the Baron. I don't think there are junglers around here. Ultimately, MightyBear would come back and end up dying, but just good timing again by Splyce. This is the second time that we've seen a non-favored team just go for the Baron when they hadn't won a fight, hadn't done anything, and take the first one of the series.
Yeah, very well played indeed. Now we need to see how Splyce are going to push this one out. Cabo decides not to TP in. MightyBear with the strange recall timing. Maybe some communication problems on the side of Vitality. Problem might be a strong word, but issues. There we go.
Well,
without really knowing the insights, it's a bit damning to say that out loud. MightyBear might be damning himself. Is caught out. 3 members of Splyce running him down. The culling takes him out. Ooh. Turns the attention to KaSing. Kobbe's not done. He's looking for police, and he sends him down for a triple kill.
Welcome to the Rift,
Oh,
Kobbe.
we're not done yet. Kobbe and Wunder, they're inside the base, diving beyond the towers.
So you want to see what Black Lever Lucian can do. You give him the chance to open up with those autos, with those spells. He will shred you down if he's got the lead. And Splyce looking for the inhibitor.
They've got Baron-empowered minions and a lot of HP to work with. How confident are Splyce? 15 seconds. They're onto a Nexus turret. Nexus turret number 1 is down. Splyce might be doing this. They're onto the second Nexus turret. Cabochard and Nukeduck trying to save the day. Tempered Fate sends Cabo golden. KaSing throws out the Fisher. The Nexus, it's been focused
They've got it.
And Splyce have done it. They've won the first game against Vitality.
Splyce are going to be happy about that win. The first one of the summer split goes their way. We talked about Dragon priority, and all it took was one catch on MightyBear and then KaSing to allow those 2 Mountain Drakes plus the Baron buff that they already had. That's why Splyce were confident about going for the Baron. 2 Mountain Drakes, then they go into the turret push. Suddenly the base falls over, and Vitality have to now go to the break and wonder what they've got to do to even this series up.
Very confident play out of Splyce. I liked how they handled the lane swap. I liked how they played around Dragons. I just feel like they were in control of the game, and they maintained control. They didn't overstep, they didn't overreach, and that's not something that I'm actually used to seeing when I watch a Splyce team. It is only one game, it is the first of 2, but it is a very promising start to the summer split for a squad that failed to live up to expectations last split.
Yeah, you have to look at how that game played out. Kind of started with a bit of a whimper. It was so slow for 10 minutes. We had nothing, really, from either team. There was the tower push, and Splyce managed to get themselves the advantage from the tower push. And then the game kind of was on Trashy's shoulders for a while. Those flash engages really helped Splyce get the ball rolling, per se, and get a couple of kills. And from there, suddenly they go Baron, they go bot lane, get a catch, end the game. Done.
It's tough, right? Because you look at this game and you think, where did it go wrong? There's some very obvious individual mistakes on the side of Vitality, I feel that you can look at. Not teleporting to the Baron, Nukeduck maybe a little over-aggressive. Twice, you know, trying to wave clear. And there is somewhat, it feels like a little bit of a disregard maybe towards the Splyce roster, because those are the sorts of plays you don't actually anticipate from these kind of players. Yeah,
I mean, that looked a little, I wouldn't want to kind of damn them by saying nervous, but certainly the way Vitality played was a little shaky. Maybe not quite ready for a Splyce that were far more game than we saw in the spring split. I'm pretty impressed by what Splyce were doing here today.
As was I. I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle themselves in picks and bans and how they adjust now that they go over to the red side. That first pick, Lucian, 6-0-3. I don't want to say it was game-changing because you can only do what you can do on Lucian when your team sets you up.
Sure, but I mean, we spoke about Kobbe not having those individual performances. I feel like this game, although it wasn't all on him, I still think it was a very solid game from him, and perhaps more than we saw in the spring split for him.
Well, we'll find out what the analyst desk has to say about that game as they round it out.
Thank you.